This is your host, Luna Eclipse, and I'm going to continue reading World of Warcraft War Crimes. I stopped in the middle of a part of the first chapter, so I'm going to finish the chapter and then hopefully read more of the second one next time. But I know you've all been waiting, so thought I would do it. Okay. Even as she thought about him, her gaze found the orc shaman. At Goyle's side was his mate, Agara, who carried a small bundle, Goyle's son. Janna had heard Goyle had become a father, and there was word that Agra was again with child. Once Janna would have been invited to hold this little one, but that time had passed. Goyle was surveying the crowd, and his eyes, as blue as Janna's own, met hers. Anger and unhappiness surged through her, and she looked away. Seeking distraction, Janna turned her attention to the tallest of the leaders, Bane Bloodhoof, the Thunderbluff chief. Save for Goyle, Bane was the only horde leader Janna had ever been able to think of as a friend. Garrosh had first slain the Tauren's father, Cainrin, and then stood by while the Grimtome Tauren attacked Thunderbluff. Unable to get aid from the horde, Bane had returned to Janna for help against Magatha, which Janna had been glad to give. Bane had returned the favor by warning her of the impending attack on the Theramore. Of course, Bane had assumed it would be an ordinary battle. He had not known of the stolen forcing Iris, or the deadly purpose Garrosh had planned for it. In Janna's opinion, any debts between them had been paid. She spotted a few others too. Lorthamore, Theron of the Blood Elves, with whom she had recently, albeit under duress, negotiated, and the obnoxious goblin trade prince Jack Skillywax, spotting his ridiculous top hat. A Pandarian clad in the robes of a monk bowed in greeting as they exited the cart. "Honored guest," he said, "you are welcome. Here there will be only peace as you attend the first ever gathering of all the leaders of Azeroth. Do you promise to abide by these rules?" "I thought there was going to see justice done," Faressa began, but Janna laid a hand on her arm. Faressa bit her lip, and she said nothing more. Since the murder of her husband, Faressa had gravitated to Janna, and the leader of the Currentor was the only one who seemed able to pour oil on the churning waters of Faressa's loath of the Horde. "You understand that there is no peace in our hearts," Janna said to the monk. "There is pain and anger and despair for justice, as Faressa had said. And for my part, however, I will offer no violence." The other three answered in kind, although Faressa uttered the words with difficulty, and the Pandarian invited them to follow them up to the suede rope bridge and a massive central staircase and into the Colosseum. Asa Cloudsinger, among the first of the Pandarian who had joined the alliance, stood at the entrance to the temple, and the newcomers bowed to her. Her eyes sparkled with pleasure at seeing them. Asaya had settled in Stormwind City, and Janna had not seen her since the monks arrived some time ago. I knew you would come," Asaya said, bowing to each of them in turn. "Thank you." "Asaya," Valerian said, "can you tell us what's going on?" "All I know is those who have led the factions of the Alliance and the Horde were requested to come here peacefully, and that the August Celestials have made some sort of decision," she said. Please enter the temple in silence and stay with your fellows in the center area. On the left, the celestials will arrive soon. Her normally modulated voice was higher than usual, betrayed the strain and concern she felt. She was not a good. There was not a good sign, and they all nodded in agreement. Quietly, John asked, "Is G here?" Saya Stride faltered. G Firepaw was the first Pandorian to ally with the Horde as Saya had joined the Alliance. It had divided them until Garrosh had turned on G, who had come perilously close to execution. That the two cared deeply for was obviously one another was obvious, but what would happen between them now was not so clear. He is here. For now we are together, and this time is precious to us both. She offered no more, and Janna did not press her. The Archmage hoped that perhaps his trial would make G realize that the Horde was the wrong side for him to have chosen. The Temple of the White Tiger was vast. Here in the caveous area that was in the center of the temple, Pandaria monks trained. The disciplined practice under Kunzin. Watchful eyes turned them into masters of their martial art. Despite the size, however, the temple did not feel oppressive. Perhaps it was because despite the copious amount of seats, no one gathered here to witness death, only skill. The entrance was in the south, directly opposite a huge brazier-flanked throne in the seating area. Banners were on display in the west, north, and east. On the floor was a ring of 6 large self-contained decorative bronze circles with the substantial, slightly recessed 7th in the circle. The illumination came from the blazing lanterns that hung from the ceiling and the daylight streaming through the open doors of the entryway. Others were before them. Varian's son, Prince Adun, strode up to them and embraced his father. Janna was happy to see the ease and affection with which the two interacted, as opposed to the strain of their relationship not so long ago. Adunin, who had been in this land longer than any of them, but put a finger on his lips, and they nodded their understanding. In understanding as requested, they moved to join High Priestess Tyron Whisperwind, representing the Night Elves, and the General of the Sentinels, Chandris Feathermoon. Felin, the ancient leader of the alien Draenei, inclined his head in greeting, and Adunin went to stand with his teacher and friend as others filled in. Genin Greymane, king of the Gilnesses, I think, entered along with the High Tinker Gilbin Mekatorku. They were followed by Mora, Murdin, Bronzebeard, and Falstand Windhammer, the triumvirate that spoke for the Dwarven kingdoms. Greymane had opted for his Worgen form. This choice spoke volumes. It both acknowledged to the Horde present that at least some of the Alliance understood what it was like to taste the more primal side of nature, and told his fellow Alliance members that he was not ashamed of it. On the right side of the room, the Horde representatives had gathered, and Janna's lips thinned as she regarded them. Coil was now accompanied by his old friend and advisor, Itrig, and another elderly orc, one whom Janna remembered, Farok Sarfang. His son, His son Dranos had fallen at the Wrath Gate. Dranos had been reanimated by the Lich King, only to finally fall again. A true death this time. Valrock looked to be a hard-bitten warrior, but he was also a father who mourned a worthy son. Beside her, Jana heard a swift intake of breath, and she followed Faressa's gaze. A slender, graceful figure that entered the temple of the White Tiger. She looked at first glance like an elven archer, but there was a slickly blue-gray tint in her skin, and her eyes blazed red, as if they were the only outlets of the unquenchable fire. Sylvanas Windrider, Dark Lady of the Forsaken and sister to Veressa, had arrived. That's all I'm gonna do for now. Hopefully I'll be able to do chapter 2 here soon. Please comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think. Have a great day.